managing it is going to be landing here, so please don't panic. It's not genuine.
Say no more.
Okay then, so there is an Armed Forces Day event happening in Banbury today as well, so it looks as though they're going to be serving up
was one of the rollers they brought back, and they assembled it all at Cowley, making all the bits that didn't arrive. We used to own it years ago, and it was an excellent engine, and I'm very, very pleased to see it's been well looked after again. The next engine is my engine, and this was new to Encombe Hall Estate in 1887, and in 1921 it went into the John Allen Threshing fleet. It was used by them all the way until 1940 when they had a sale, and it was sold a couple of times before my father was able to buy it back. The engine that it's towing is absolutely unique. It is the Lampit traction engine, made in Banbury in 1887. It's had a checkered history. My father bought it from Sainsbury's in 1887, in 1972, and then we sold it on to a friend, and it's been partially restored but not totally restored. But we're very, very pleased to see it here as a very, very important part of the Banbury area and Oxfordshire. The next engine is a Marshall traction engine, which was also part of the Allen fleet. I believe it was new to them. I can't remember off the top of my head. Again, it was sold in 1940. And the next engine is a Fowler. And this too was a part of the Allen Threshing fleet. And this too was sold in 1940. Some of you may have seen on Facebook recently, there was a picture of 3 engines in the sale. And they were these 3 engines. And they just happened to be the only 3 existing. So we're very, very pleased to have them all together again today. I shall miss the Survivor, but I shall jump on to this Abeling, which is another Oxfordshire engine. This was new to the Thames Urban District Council and then got absorbed into the Oxfordshire Country Council in their reorganisation. It went to a scrapyard and in Surrey, and I saw it there in very smashed up condition. Bought it and subsequently sold it on to Nigel Heath, who's made an absolutely excellent job of restoration. He's done it for quite a few years now, and he loves the engine, and so do I. So well done to him. If I can find a commentator, I'm going to pass back to him, and I shall go into partial retirement. Engine. This is a heavy haulage engine, and What you can see on the back are 3 of the traction wagons. These are the trucks that would have traditionally sat behind the road locos when they were in use around the UK. This is a really great sight to see. These particular wagons have just come back from Ireland. It's the first time they've actually been seen here in England. The train together would have been full with all sorts of cargo, and this would have been a common sight around the roads of the UK at the time.
The owner of it, he's got Burrell as well. Burrell here, the Badger is the same locomotive, and he's got Foster traction wagon. And he said, "Oh, we've just got another one here." And actually, so he dragged it out where it wasn't flowing till he was
Owned by John Wharton, who's just speaking to us about the Allens engine. The thing that's really special about King George VI is that it was bought by John's father in 1950. It went to its first steam rally in 1952 and was the first showman's engine ever shown at a steam rally.
That's incredible. We're quite lucky to have it here then.
Absolutely, and you know, when that's 73 years ago, and here it is still at rallies.
And still looking incredible.
Yeah, and if you go to the fair this evening, you'll see George will be in the fair carrying from the Pompey Rise doing exactly what it was designed to do back in the day.
That's amazing, that's amazing. So when we spoke to a couple of the owners in the miniature steam, they said how much work goes into looking after them. An engine like this, what kind of, is it as much as you like, or does it need a set amount of time you need to put in to look after one?
I think the thing about a full-size engine, and it's very similar with the miniature, it's not entirely dissimilar, but when you've got a full-size engine, think of it more as a way of life than just an amount of maintenance you have to put into a vehicle. These are things that need to be cared for, they need to be continuously maintained. If you use them to the extent that some of these owners do, things will inevitably break. And unfortunately, you know, you can't just go down to QuickFit and get a replacement part. These are people that will manufacture their own parts for the engine to keep them on the road. So it's an impressive amount of effort that goes into keeping these engines running and in the sort of spectacular keeping that we see them in now.
And what's incredible is not only the amount of engines you have, but the community, the kind of the feel you get as you walk around all the sections, especially the big steam. I was walking along and everyone's having a chat, you know, whether they know each other or not.
The gathering, except with people that you like.
Excellent. And I guess apart from the steam rallies, that's really the main time that they're on show, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely,
you do see. So Dan, I'm not sure if you touched on this earlier, obviously we can see the carts behind this one, obviously would have carried various things. What kind of weight could one of these pull?
Well, I mean, a fully loaded train like this could easily be putting 50 tons.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. And you know, we've got to recognise the time that these were being used. So this is a significant advancement. Prior to this, you were predominantly talking about things that were either moved by horse and cart on unmade roads, or you were talking about things that were moved by feet. And so the traction engine really revolutionised two things. It brought huge amount of mechanisation into farming. So suddenly things that were being done by huge amounts of labour and a huge amount of horses could suddenly be replaced now by far more efficient traction engines. I mean, a good example of this is if we think in modern parlance, you often hear references to an acre. An acre is one of those spaces that is a bit hard to imagine what the size of an acre is. An acre is actually it's defined by amount of work that to be done.
Right.
So technically, an acre is a furlong. So, we can think about furlongs in terms of horse racing.
Yeah.
So, furlong, the word actually comes from furrow, a long furrow, a furlong. So an acre is a furlong by a chain. And we still have chains about now. Chains are used as a unit of measurement still on the railway. And if you ever go and see a cricket pitch, then the distance between the stumps is a chain. So an acre was defined as a furlong by a chain, and was actually the amount of land that could be ploughed by one man with a team of 8 oxen.
There we go. Incredible knowledge, Dan. Incredible knowledge.
Travelling to steam rallies or to other steam events, you'll find they'll carry a trailer behind. So on each engine, you will have a coal bunker at the back of the engine, and that will, obviously you'll fill that with coal, but quite often the first trailer that you'll see behind an engine will have a water tank on it, and it will have an additional supply of coal. So some people will carry an extra half a ton of coal on the back. That wouldn't be uncommon. Right. And that means that you can just extend your range.
Yeah.
So you can constantly be filling. Some of them will have pipes that go from water bowsers on the trailers into the tank. Some will stop and manually put water across. There are some people you can obviously it's an important thing, and everybody always does have a license from the water board, which means that you can actually stop at fire hydrants to fill up engines.
Oh, there we go.
There was a great story from the late Fred Dibner, one of the names that people really associate with the traction engine movement. An agricultural engine, it's a single cylinder engine, and what you'll find is that at a particular position in the crank, it has equal space between both sides of the cylinder, and so it's quite difficult to get it going. And you'll see that on ordinary then turn the flywheel just to move the position of the crank so that it would then pick up the speed and carry on moving again.
So that's quite a common thing then?
Absolutely, yes. That's the sort of thing that any engine driver will deal with dozens of times every day.
Right, okay. Because obviously lots of people looking very concerned that there was a problem with the engine then, but if that's quite a common thing.
Yeah, absolutely nothing to be worried about at all. It's very, very much part of a standard engine driver's drill.
So just like this one is right in front of us, slightly different, this engine is coming in here. What's the difference between that one and...
what we've got here is a floating steam lorry. Again, these were designed for heavy haulage. They were designed they're an next iteration, if you like, of the lorries on our roads. They were very much dedicated to road use though, because a lot of the engines here would have been capable of working at farms and doing other work as well. They could have been pulling loads and all sorts of things. Whereas when we got on to the Foden,
you can still see a couple more coming down.
So the engine that you can see here, we talked about where some of the engines have come from. The engine here, Oxfordshire Cruise and Kinsale, has actually come over from Ireland.
Wow.
So a good trip over, they make a trip over in the summer. They do a number of steam rallies. But great to see people making the effort to still come over.
So the question is, how are you getting that here?
Well, a lot of the time they'll come on low loaders on the ferries like everything else.
Yeah.
You'd be a dedicated person who rows one all the way over.
Of course, yeah, that's quite a commitment, isn't it, to a day?
Absolutely, yeah.
And the steering on these steam engines, I mean, it looks like it's being done with ease, but it's not exactly power steering, is it?
No, I mean, the engines tend to be relatively easy to steer whilst they're in motion. If you're trying to move the steering wheel that's static, it can be very, very heavy indeed. The steering wheel goes down to a turn screw, which then turns a shaft and it winds chains around, which moves the front wheel from side to side. incredibly interesting engine. This is a Fowler, so it was built in Leeds, but it was called, they were called colonial engines, so they were generally built bigger, they had bigger fireboxes, bigger doors, because they were generally sent overseas. This particular engine was sent out, I think it was to Chile, is that right?
Mozambique.
Mozambique. It was sent out to Mozambique, where it worked on a sugarcane estate. But this was one of the big ploughing engines. There were two ways in which ploughing was undertaken by traction engines. There was direct traction power, where literally you would find the traction engine towing a plough in the same way as you would with a tractor now. And these huge, graceful ploughing engines, where you would have two engines at each end of a field, and they would drag a plough backwards and forwards between them. So underneath the big ploughing engines you'll see a winch. Now that isn't it's not a speed winch, it's not the sort of thing that you would, it's not a powerful winch, but it would move a plough backwards and forwards quite easily.
Right.
For a roller such as this, in good condition, you could be looking at about £40,000.
Wow.
Going up to, if we were looking at one of the showrooms, in the sort of condition that we see them here, we'd probably be talking anything from £300,000 or £400,000 up to about £1 million.
That is incredible, isn't it? I mean, they are absolutely stunning, but for someone who doesn't know as much than others about steam, that's some serious investment, isn't it?
It is serious investment, and that's if you can find where it's from. Oh, right. They come up to sell very well. Okay.
I just feel like if you were looking at something, you didn't have time, is there any certain sites and things which you chose for effective site rather than like a local site?
I mean, there are a couple of organisations in the UK that specialise in the buying and selling of traction engines. We do have Berry Brook that's down there next door, and we also have legacy vehicles. And Tom Allen from Legacy Vehicles actually has a stand in our team line here today. So if you do fancy buying one of these engines and getting involved in steam, someone sure we can bring up to have a conversation about it.
And I guess I'm sure there's lots of ways, I mean obviously we've heard about some of the various societies and things about just being able to be involved. Do you just be an engine to be involved, or can you just be...
So there are various steam societies. The National Traction Engine Trust run various schemes, so there are driver training days, they've got a steam apprentice club for young people, so there are lots of ways in which people can get involved. And generally if you come along and just talk to the engine owners, we're always...
Once they come round, past the main gate again, we'll then just have a brief look at the front row before we go into the steam game. So we need those volunteers, the children, as there are some children to get involved with the tug of war. With a half-size steam engine. Not often you get a chance to do that, and that'll be a nice thing to tell all your friends about at school on Monday.
One of the important things to recognise is that all of these engines are powered solely by coal. So you need two ingredients to make an engine go. You need the coal to create fire, and you need the water to create steam. The thing about when you see engines constantly blowing off steam, that means you're burning more coal than you need to because you're generating more steam than you need to. So you lose the efficiency of the engine set. Once you've also then got on top of the fire, you have to stay on top of the level of water in the boiler. So there are water in two spaces on a traction engine. You'll have water that's in the boiler that's boiling and generating steam. But then when you use that steam, the water level in the boiler drops, and so you've got to put more water into the boiler to make more steam. So every time while you're driving an engine, you're balancing the fire, and you're then balancing the level of water in the boiler to keep it just right. There's actually one of my favourite engines. the parking zone just in the middle there. But that will be capable on the road of about 20 miles an hour.
Wow. That's certainly some speed for something so large. Isn't it?
Absolutely, it gets quite, you've got to be on your toes really, because the difficulty of steering an engine at that sort of speed is that you get all sorts of bumps on the road and you've got you offshore, so you've really got to be on the steering, because if you get that lost you can easily go to one side, you probably are crossing the line into the opposing traffic, so you've really got to be on it.
So our final engines are just coming in from the top of the arena now. Sam, you want to have a walk up here with me? We're just going to take a couple of examples from the front row and then we'll say thank you to our wonderful owners.
Watch the engine. On a standard engine you would turn the wheel much as you would when driving a car. On these big flowering engines you'll see that actually he's turning the wheel in the reverse direction of the wheel swing. So it can be a confusing thing to drive. And he's certainly best in the hands of some of the very capable and experienced owners we have here today, of course.
So the end is in sight of our long line of full-size steam engines for this section. Our last few are making their way into the arena. Once they're all lined up, or the last few are in, myself and Dan will have a little walk around the front of the front line. And we're going to hear a little bit more. What a lovely way to keep everybody nice and involved. So as Dan said, there are some children who are looking forward to being involved. We will look for some volunteers. Dan, how many volunteers will we look for that, do you think, for the children?
I think to stand any chance of them winning, we're going to need just 40.
Wow, 40 children. And if you just see me the other one, Dan, I reckon I'll be alright.
I'm sure we've got some very strong young girls and boys that would like to come in here and give themselves a chance to compete against one of them. It's just a half-day venture. So
Sounds good, sounds a lot of fun. Thank you both of you. One. Let's hear those hands, everybody. Incredible. Thank you very much indeed. They're all keen to be involved, aren't they, Dan?
on behalf of Bloxham Steam Rally, I think it's only appropriate to say an absolutely huge thank you to all of the owners that put all the time and effort into bringing these engines to the show and putting on such a fantastic display.
There's a round of applause for them, everybody. Incredible.